Welcome back. I'm Aurian Archive, and I'm still looking for something to listen to. Preferably something soft. Maybe not so over the top. How about chill hip hop lo-fi mix from Lo-Fi Radio 24/7? Oh, that sounds nice and smooth. And we're getting started talking about sound. Or rather, a recent email as a result of Black Friday. Uh, I thought I had already did a stream on this and had a stream of first reactions, but either I deleted it or something went wrong and the stream wasn't posted. Uh, uh, but going on a couple weeks ago, I've mentioned before I have a pair of Anchor Soundcore Life Q30s, and I broke the plastic on them. I broke the plastic in such a way they do not seem to be repairable, or if they are repairable, I don't see an easy way to replace them, and simply gluing the existing plastic together, well, it broke just as quickly despite using a very strong adhesive to attempt to fix them. So I was in the market for a new pair of headphones. There are just some complications when it comes to me and headphones, and that's why we're starting with what's actually on the page right now, and that's head-related transfer functions. I have synthetic ear canals. What that means is that at a very young age, younger than I can actually remember, I had to have surgery done to open up the ear canals in my ears. I was born deaf, and this was not determined until I was like 2 years old. Uh, the between the scarring, the artificial nature of the canals to begin with, I don't have a natural ear canal format. In most determinations of head-related transfer function, in order to cleanly map an ear, a microphone is placed at the bottom of the eardrum or in the bottom of the ear, and that just doesn't work for me. The only reliable HRTF reading I've ever had done, somebody had to scan my ear from the outside, make a mold, and then place the microphone on the other side of the mold because they wasn't going to work in the normal method. That's how complicated my hearing is. Now, because of that, when it comes to headphones, I vastly prefer over over the ear headphones. Not on the ear, not in the ear, but over the ear headphones, because those give me the most natural sound reproduction. And this is something kind of to keep in mind when I look through my headphone history and look at the headphones that I've tested for Game Nikki, look at the headphones that I tested for Mepis Guides, looking at the headphones that I tested doing ghost reviews, in whatever I wound up personally using and why I like specific pairs of headphones. And one of the complicating factors is that in terms of a frequency response, any test that determines what frequency can I hear, I can pass every single one. I can accurately determine, what tone that is, approximately what the volume difference is, but most of those tests are done with only ear headphones. It wasn't until I was actually put in a room with multiple speakers set up all around me, and someone started playing speakers over sound over an array, and okay, point to where the sound is coming from, not only a headphone, but in an open air room. That was the first point where they realized there's something wrong with the way I process sound when it comes from an open area. And that also is looking in deeper into that. Okay, what's wrong with your ear canal? What's happened to your ears? Has an effect on, say, the earbuds that I wear. And I've talked about this in previous streams where the chain of earbuds that I was listening to, where I really felt like I wasn't losing anything in the sound function. And all of this is kind of important as I go over the immediate history of the headphones that I have. And so our first starting point here is how do you actually hear sound? How do you determine where the sound is coming from? Well, timing obviously is the answer, but the very physical configuration of a person's ear canals and the shape of the ears will determine whether or not some headphones feel better, or some headphones sound better, or some headphones transfer better. So again, I vastly prefer open ear headphones, And there's been a couple of headphones from Anchor Soundcore that I really liked. And when the Life Q30s came up for a Black Friday deal, I cracked open a credit card and bought them. And well, now there's an email from Anchor, how do we do? How do they sound? Tell us about them. Give a review. Well, they asked, so here we go. Here's the audio file with broken ears looking at headphones. So the first part is when we start thinking about how do we hear sound, the actual mechanics of how do our eardrums work, how do our ear canals work, and what's comfortable to use and what transmits sound. That's step one. Step two is what actually generates the sound. Now, there's two different ways to look at this. Bluetooth headphones and the Life Q30s are a Bluetooth headset do have strict limitations over what can be passed over a Bluetooth signal. Now, more recent Bluetooth standards have upped the audio quality game, raising the bit rate, using different codecs to fit into the existing bit rates, having specific channels dedicated to audio transfer, so that in theory, on the latest examples of Bluetooth audio, you should not be losing a significant amount, if any, sound quality over a transmission. And that's an important contextual is, first of all, can you, as a normal person, determine the sound difference between a Bluetooth connection, and can you determine the sound difference between a wired connection? And this brings up an important question of how are you testing the headphones to begin with? And I mean, what hardware are you testing the headphones on Bluetooth alone? Because if you're testing them on Bluetooth alone, you're only testing the Bluetooth capabilities of the device that you're using to test the Bluetooth connection. And depending on the device that you're using, you may or may not have the best possible Bluetooth connection that the headphones you have in your hands can actually achieve. So that's the question there. For the most part, then, if you have a Bluetooth headset that has a wired speaker input, 3.5 millimeters, single in a jack input, if you run those headphones wired, you should have a better handling over what the headphones are actually capable of, because you're bypassing the Bluetooth system and you're hopefully dealing directly with the speakers themselves. And to that end, what I am using, or what I use to look at the headphones I have in hand, the Life Q30s, I'm using the Mastrop O2 plus SDAC DAC amp. This is the best amplifier that I have on hands that is already set up and used, and to me gives a repeatable format over time. This is not the only amplifier that I have on hand. I do have a topping NX4 on hand, but it's a little cumbersome to use. And it mostly stays in a bag because it's really designed as a mobile amplifier. It's not designed as a desktop amplifier. Now, real quick here, I am on the lookout for. I, Part of me says I don't really want to replace the SDACO2 because it is a phenomenal, not just for the price point when it's available, but it's got a phenomenal quality. It is very transparent. It is very predictable. And for that end, for the streams, I have added a few DAC amps that I am looking at. I am looking at the Hy-B FC3. And there are some very good reasons why I particularly like the High BFC3. And let's bring up our interact so we can look at it. And first of all, it's very small. It's much like the Zorlu that I broke. And as we scroll down, we can see that it is a USB Type-C input. It's all metal body. Uh, It has everything that I would particularly want. It is high-res audio certified, which is critical because that means it does support at least 24-bit by 96K, but it also goes PCM up to 32-bit through 84K, and it does do DSD at 128 DOP. These are all very good uh, features to have. It also functions as a computer sound card, which for me is another plus. Now, because it's Type-C input and it's presuming you're using a USB 3.0 power delivery, it probably can drive the headphones you probably have on hand. So this is one of the DAC amps that I am kind of looking at. Another one that I'm looking at, but probably going to take a pass on, even if I manage to get hands on one, is the XDSD Griffin. Now, this thing on specifications is a powerhouse. Now, I'm not sure if the web page is going to behave for me. Uh, let's try that. And okay, there we go. Now it's behaving for me. This does give us our balanced output and our 3.5 millimeter single end output. So in theory, I could use this and go to a higher grade of headphones than the ones that I probably have that have a balanced input without much problem. The only reason why I wouldn't go with the XDSD Griffin is its USB input and its charging port are separate. This is kind of the same reason why I didn't break out the topping NX4. Even though this Griffin has more features than the topping NX4, has more inputs, more outputs. I think it has slightly better quality, better sound quality throughput. The fact that the USB charging and USB DAC are separate is okay. There are maybe some practical cases where you could successfully say make the argument that, well, what if your only charging port you have is on your computer, but you want to be using one of the other inputs? Well, of course, and I kind of go, well, now you're just kind of stretching this as to what's available or not available. You could just make a software or hardware switch to go to a different input instead of it's having the two separate. I'm not really sure I understand. And the reason why I'm not really sure I understand it is in the last one that I'm looking at, and that's the Bluetooth POS2. And this, much like the XDSD Griffin, has a has the single-ended 3.5 millimeter and a balanced output. Very nice. Uh, And if we get a look at the other end of it, it's a single USB-C type C in. And if we go down and look at our specifications, not only do we have a astounding array, PCM 32K at 384, DSD 64, DSD 128. It'll do MQA decoding and hardware, and it gives us our wattage outputs over the 3.5 and 4.4 millimeter jacks. We even have the data sheet on what chips are actually being used inside of this. Now, all in all, the Bluetooth is a powerhouse that does what the Griffin does not. It puts the charging and the DAC port on the same USB Type C input. So this is, if the Bluetooth can do this, why can't the Griffin? Serious question. Why can't the Griffin do this? Anyways, so that's the first thing. One of the things we got to keep in mind first of all is how are our ears actually handling the sound? Second, how are we actually getting the sound to the headphones? And another factor and I see this in a lot of reviews, are how are you actually generating the music? Me personally, I use a Plex media server, and I talked about this before. I have a media server whose only purpose is to store media content on magnetic drive, so it has lots of inexpensive storage space. It has an inexpensive processor. All it does is just a sit in the background, sit in the closet. Well, I don't put it in a closet anymore, but since I'm not at a place where I have a closet to put it into, but it sits. It's not really used for day-to-day work. All it does is just host content, and I use a Plex media server with the PNP casting or the Chromecasting or whatever it's being called, the Bubble PNP. Uh, I use a casting system to get to that music, and since I'm using a Plex server, the music that I have saved, I can be fairly well assured that it is the same quality of music that I either ripped, stored, or obtained. And so we have three factors here before we even start listening to the music itself: is how do our ears work? Uh, how are we playing the audio? What quality is the audio actually being played? Are we actually pushing the speakers to the limits of what they can manage? What are we playing the music with? Are we sure that our sound quality generation is good. And on that front, if you're not familiar with Bandcamp, you may want to become familiar with Bandcamp. Bandcamp is a service of sort that allows artists to put their music up, and you can get tracks that are encoded in FLAC from the masters made by the artist. In this case, I'm looking at Ventagod's proof of concept, which I can get in FLAC format. So lossless audio straight from the person who uploaded it. So assumably they're master tracks. Now, unless you have a phonograph sitting around and you're using a vinyl pressing that was taken from the master track, you're probably limited by the sound quality of whatever you picked up. If your audio source was a CD, even if you have speakers with better quality than CD audio or headphones with better playback quality than CD audio, you're never going to notice the difference because your limitation is the music source. So, and this is how, when I was putting my playlist together, I looked for what I had that I knew that was in a higher than CD quality format, because either I got it off of Super Audio CD, or I ripped it from a DVD audio, or I ripped it from a DSD format, or I used a higher quality media source that I originally bought the music from. So keep in mind how you got your music or what you're intending to listen to will go a long ways towards helping you determine, are these headphones worth listening to? So let's recap one more time. Starting all the way at the bottom. We have, I know what my ears, or I have an idea of my HRTF. I have an idea of what headphones are going to sound like to me, what I'm kind of looking for. I know what ampli I'm using. I'm knowing what quality it's using. I have determined how I'm going to get that music that I'm listening to for the test, how I'm going to play it. I'm playing it off of a Plex media server now. Actually, I'm using VLC, which I didn't link here, to actually play the music back on a Windows platform. Uh, that way, also, I have VLC gives you fine, detailed audio controls and audio information. And I used music where I knew the source of it. I'm not pulling stuff off of YouTube, which could be, well, anything from, well, if you've listened to Vivo, any of the bands that release on Vivo, or if you've dealt with Vivo in the past, or you've dealt with a few official music distributors, you're well aware that YouTube is not very big on give me audio quality. Just laying that out there. Uh, Google Play Music was okay. It actually, if you told it to play back an FLAC file that you had stored to it, it would play back an FLAC file that you had stored to it. I'm not so sure that YouTube Music is doing that. Yes, I can access my old uploaded library, but I'm not sure that it's actually playing back the audio and the quality that I stored it at. All right, so what do I have to compare the Q30s or the Q35s to? Well, starting on the wired side, I have the Soundcore Vortex, and these were the first Soundcore headphones that I picked up, and I absolutely love these. They have great quality, uh, but my only real complaint about them is they roast my ears. Great in the winter, not so great in the summer. Next up, I still do have the Q30s on hand. Now, these are saying that they are certified for high res audio. I'm not so sure that they're really 2496K capable, but that's what they say. They, I'm not, I can't actually myself determine a significant difference between the Life Q30s and the Vortexes. Now, either that's a testament to how good the Vortexes are, or it's a complaint about how bad the Bluetooth system is using these as a Bluetooth. All right. Also in the range of wired headsets, I did dig out my Velodyne V-True Aluminum. Now, there is a note here. Velodyne Acoustics has been sold. It's now a new company. So I, maybe be holding out hope here, but I would love to see the drivers in the Velodyne V-Trues. I would love to see them put on the frame for the Drop Hi-Fi Man headphones, the headband and carrying case, or not carrying case, the frame mounts with the over the ear mounts. I'd love to see I'd love to see something like the Hi-Fi Man frame with the driver from the Velodyne V2. I think that would be a killer product for Drop to make. I love the drivers in the Velodyne V-Trues. They've got an awesome bass response, not so great in the high end, but they really do live up to their. They were probably for a while one of the few studio headphones that you could get that would compete with actual studio headphones while costing as much as a non-studio headset from the likes of Apple. Yes, I went there. All right. Um, Now, on the other side of the equation, what about Bluetooth comparison? Well, again, we have the Vortexes, we have the Q30s, and this is where we have to drop back in time a little more. Also, on the veins of Bluetooth, I the first what got me into looking at Anchor headsets to begin with was the Liberty from Zolo. Now, these died a long time ago. I just dropped them way too many times. And I did have the Liberty Pro 2s. I've actually worn these out. These have what I consider to be a design failure in where the button is located on them. If you look at the picture here, the button is located on the top, meaning that if you're using these for a workout, you have a significant amount of sweat ingress. Now, to be fair, that problem does seem to have been solved on the Liberty 3 Pro. Looking at the uh, promotional images, it appears that the button has been moved to the side. So I don't know if they've solved the sweat ingress problem. Uh, I don't think they've quite solved the charging problem because these look to lay into their charging case the same as the Pro 2s, and that puts the charging contact points on the bottom of the case. Okay, there we can see on this image here, the contact points are right down here in the bottom where sweat can accumulate. So if you take these off after a long ride, you may have a slight problem with the with sweat buildup, corroding, or causing issues. I mean, they probably sound great. I don't have a pair, but some of the design problems with the Pro 2 have been addressed. I do need to address that. What I do have on hand, again, in terms to look at, I do have the Drop New Force earbuds in terms of Bluetooth, and these are very competent Bluetooth 4 point something connection. I also have the Final Audios. Now, these kind of do leave me screaming mad. I bought these because I love the idea of anime crossovers and game crossovers. I'd like to see more of that. I mean, if so I bought these to support. It's the kind of product I want to see a company like Drop offer. The kind of product I'd like to see someone like Anchor and Soundcore offer. To be fair, uh, but these don't sound as good as Liberty Pro 2s, or at least they didn't. The Liberty Pro 2s have died, so I at least have something that sounds as good as the Liberty Pro 2s. But because of these, uh, just sit in a corner for the most part. All right. So while we're on the subject of earbuds, I actually tagged this as Drop Grill Want because Drop just dropped these, no pun intended, and these are a collaboration with Grill. And on first glance, I really like these earbuds. They apparently have all of the connecting protocol to make them sound really good. They ship with a foam earpiece, which means for someone like me, and this is something what's kind of found important. Mentioned this before in previous streams. I'm using the Taconi foam earbuds because those give me better transmission in my ear for my ears and for my ear configuration. I really hate earbuds that have the long antennas that you look like an extra out of Star Trek or Star Wars or maybe even Babylon 5. But here the antenna is short, it's not really that obtrusive, it's not really that obnoxious. If you have to have an external antenna to save on space or to get your circuitry right or to improve your microphone handling, which is what I think these are doing, this is an excellent, uh, I think, an excellent compromise versus the long stems. And these, I think, look really good. I really want these. I just don't need to be spending $200 on one of these. But this is kind of, if I get another pair of earbuds, these are probably at the top of my list. I mean, if somebody wants to ship me these for Christmas, I'm probably going to open the box and go, whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, be highly confused. Um, then hey, do what you do. So that's what I've got in terms of immediate Bluetooth to compare with. Now, also in terms of going ear to ear, not just comparing inside the Vortex, the Q30s. I do have the Drop 4XX headphones, and I really like these. They have great sound quality. I also still have in hand the Drop HE5XX, and these are most of the time what I use on my desktop when I'm not streaming, where I either go with the Steel Series or uh, the Steel Series Kraken Kitty Edition, or the no, sorry, Razer Kraken Kitty Edition, Steel Series Cyberpunk Arctis One. One of these days, I will get the names in the right order on the first try. Now, I am not, for the purposes of comparison, comparing the Razer or the Steel Series headphones. And the reason I'm not doing that is, as I said before, their USB DAC caps out at basically DVD CD quality audio. They're not getting much over 16-bit 48K, if at all. Uh, and on wired, as far as I can tell, the wired performance of the Steel Series uh, isn't any better than its wireless performance. Those cans are capped hard. Now, I do need to note, if you're looking at a budget comparison to the Life Q35s, Drop has done a couple of headphones, and these are one that actually went to a patron. These are HE35Xs, and these were Drop Hi-Fi Man's driver based. They're not planar medic, just normal driver based. I like them. I really like them. They did have a little bit better bass response than the HE4XXs, but they weren't as good anywhere else. And the also of note, Drop and Hi-Fi Man got together and did an update with the HE350, and I'm not sure if this is a better or worse product than the HE35X, but it's been superseded. As you can see, Drop sold a lot of these, and there's a lot of people who want one. And same thing with the HE35Xs have a lot less sold because I think this was just an initial production run, and the 350s were like the follow up with a more substantial production run. All right. Also, but those have been superseded because now Drop and Hi-Fi Man have the HEX4s, which are planar magnetics. They are significantly less expensive. So if you are in the market for a wired pair of headphones, I don't have these. But I'm going to guess, based on the specifications, they probably compare pretty favorably with the HE4XXs if you have a decent amplifier, and as if you have a decent amplifier. Now, there's probably a reason why the HE4XXs are still commanding a higher price point, but I think that's down to the physical construction is a. I mean, just look at it. The HE4XX has a slightly more robust build to it than the HEX4s. So that is something to keep in mind, that you are basically paying for what I think is a better build quality. Could be wrong on that, uh, but that's what I got on hand, and that's what, if you're looking at this and you're looking to, and you're influenced by whatever I'm saying, you can go for it. So let's bring up, where did I put at this moment, I've just got, I think, too many windows listed here. So we'll go grab the Q30s, do an interact real quick, and we'll go look at the Q35s. Now, comparatively speaking to the Q35s supposedly bring about high-res audio wireless, and they bring LDAC And you can see they're priced at $130 with $20 off right now. So uh, they are you can get them for close to $100 if you're doing careful shopping. And for a wired pair of headphones, my first reaction, if you will, to the Q35s is they have a lot of bass. I mean, a lot of bass. But that's kind of the Velodyne features also have a significant amount of bass performance. So, how did the Q35 sound against the other ones that I did have in hand? Well, across the tracks I was listening to, which included everything from Bass 305 to Aventagoden to Skillet. I'm trying to remember what all I had in the playlist. I think I had some from As I Lay Dying in there. Uh, and I think I had some original POD tracks. I think Boom. The Q35s had a very powerful, very effective mid-ranged and lower mid-range bass response compared to other headphones potentially in their same effective price point, and compared uh, to the Q30 I have on hand, especially compared to the Vortex. And again, this is running on wired over using the Drop SDAC 02 in order to try and maximize the amount of audio performance that I get to drive the headphones to the best potential I can drive them on the music that I have to listen to. And keeping that in mind, the Q35s sounded very good, not just for a $130 part. Honestly, the bass and mid-range response is almost up there with the planar magnetics, except it's not. The highs were definitely muddy. I mean, uh, the not tremolo. The when you did I just use the right term? Give me a second while I check that. Okay, tremolo. Okay, I do have the right effect. When you're doing with tremolo or vibrato, especially in the high ranges in the upper octaves, say in the alto range or the soprano range, when you have tremolo in that range, the Q35s just fall apart. They're not very good on high end audio reproduction. They're just not. Now, to be fair, you're only spending around $100 on these. And for $100 headphones, are they going to outclass everything else that's also in the $100 mark? Probably. I honestly can't imagine a Beats, a Bose, a Sennheiser, a Sony, or any other big name in that price at $100 price point that's going to sound as good as Life Q35 sounded on average. Now, by that same token, I can think of another off-brand Cohen that may have a product or two in that price range that may sound as good. May. Uh, I'm almost betting not. Do I doubt that the drivers are actually capable of 24-bit 96K quality playback? Oh, no, I do not. I I think that they're probably but I think that's their upper limit. I think they are kind of limited at 24-bit 96K. I think if you're feeding them a 24-bit 192K signal or better, you're no longer getting any benefit because I think you've outclassed what the speakers inside the headphones are actually capable of what the response and electrical characteristics are. So as long as you keep in mind that these are just really entry level high res, an entry level high res system, they're probably going to be just fine. I mean, I really like them. They fit real good on my head. They have a very good sound reproduction to my ears. And I'm not really the easiest person to, say, oh, this sounds great, because I do have a physical impediment to how some headphones sound, but these don't hurt to wear for a long time. Which brings up the other question. How do they sound on wireless? And it's going to come entirely down to the platform that you're using. Now, when I went to start streaming this morning, before I got distracted by the um, scrapper build, when I went to start streaming this morning, I was looking for the USB Type-C to HDMI cable that I've got around here somewhere so that I could actually show you on the phone I'm using, which is a Red Nubia ZTE Red Magic 6R 6 Racing, that my phone, when connected to the Life Q35s, does in fact drop into LDAC mode. And it did drop into LDAC mode when I was playing back over YouTube Music. Now, whether or not YouTube Music is feeding me an audio track that's capable of matching the audio transmission quality that the system says it's transmitting, I'm very doubtful on. Mostly because YouTube Music is incredibly vague about what what it's actually playing and the detail levels are. And the other note that I would make is Soundcore includes an app with this. And if you buy a headphones, and this is where I wish I could have found that cable. I have no idea where I put it. In the app, you get a subscription of sorts to a service called Loom that Anchor Soundcore have partnered with. Now, I don't know if Loom is like um, Bandcamp, where artists can upload master tracks of the music that they have made. I may have to turn these back on. Even though I can't show it, I can at least talk through it, hopefully in real time. Okay, here we go. We are turned on. And connecting. And there we are. We are in. And if I do the Soundcore Music and get into Loom, Soundcore's official music streaming partner, uh, I don't know what the details are on what it takes to get into Loom, or how artists upload their music, or what the quality is listening for. Loom's not really my first place to go to look for new music, because when I'm grabbing new music, I'm streaming and I have it at a low volume for my ears, and I tell you what I'm listening to. So if you'd like to go look it up or grab the same playlist, or one of the days I'll remember to maybe just link the playlist at the bottom of the stream. Um, Doing something like that, so you have an idea of what's in my ears as I'm running through this, or you may want to play your own music in the background. Um, I don't trust Google to not be a jerk here, so is whatever it is, or is whatever it is not. Uh, anyway, so the Loom service, you do kind of get that with a pair of Soundcore headphones. And occasionally Soundcore asks for feedback on the app, and well, to be brutally honest, the app really isn't worth all that much. Yes, you do have certain things you can do in regard to the headphone. You do have an equalizer. Soundcore has their own what they call Soundcore signature default sound profile. And for the music that I listen to, I have no reason to take it off of the Soundcore signature. I don't have a reason to mess with the equalizer settings. Now, either that's a testament to I don't care, which I think because we're at what, 40 minutes on this where I'm talking about audio products. I'm pretty sure that I don't care is not a valid excuse here, or maybe Anchor Soundcore is just that good uh, at figuring out what a good sounding product is out of the box. But if you want to change that, well, you can. Uh, now, do have a complaint here in that the Soundcore app is only available on mobile platforms. I haven't seen that app available for Windows or for Debian Linux or for Arch Linux. I haven't seen it on the Steam store across all platforms. So there is room here for Soundcore to make that app more readily available. And as far as the app itself, the other main complaint that I have to make is I don't use it that often. Because it just doesn't really do anything. Once you make your sound settings, that's pretty much it. I'm really not interested in the Loom music service. I mean, maybe if I spent more time with it, maybe I might use it more often. But since when I'm actually using the phone to play music back, basically using a playlist that I've already curated either on a Plex server or on YouTube Music. Curated one of those two places, and I'm just playing back a playlist. So there's that to consider. The Loom and Soundcore app integration would be much more useful if it was on more platforms rather than just mobile. And there are some things in the app, the superior sleep. I mean, have you actually tried going to sleep with earbuds in your ear or headphones on your head? It doesn't really. I, I can't do it. I'm sure some people can. I can't do it. Uh, and you do have controls for like the noise cancellation, the transparency mode. If you're doing noise cancellation, is it canceling transport indoor or outdoor? So there are some functions, but they're all exposed in the hardware controls of the headset itself, or at least I think they are. Uh, I think all of those modes were exposed on the Q30s, and I've only really swapped back and forth between noise canceling and audio transparency. So, uh, as far as audio transparency, I first got those with and that's why I brought up the Solo earbuds. Those were the first ones that I had it. And for someone like me who has artificial ear canal and didn't really develop a sense of surround sound, determining where things are, and because of the configuration of the ears, determining surround sound is problematic for me. I really love the audio transparency because it makes it a lot easier for me to determine where a sound is located from because of that just split second delay. And that's something for, I do like it, and it is a very useful feature. Is it something worth going and buying these particular headphones over another competitors? Well, I know other competitors do audio transparency now because once it's done, you can't undo it. But I think it really does show that Soundcore and Zolo were the first ones to pull it off that I know of. There may have been someone else who pulled it off first. I'm just not aware of them. And the Q35s they're perfectly good at it. Now they could use a little bit more work on the microphone input, but there's some things you can only learn by basically raw feedback. It would be something where the app would be useful if you could tune it to do a do tele do a do some kind of analysis on the sound that it's recording when you put it into transparency mode, and then maybe have the user rate how good the audio transparency actually was. Did the music audio duct when the app determined that voices were talking, things like that, which but we're probably one or two generations away from that being battery functional because now you're upping the amount of computing horsepower that's needed to determine that's a voice speaking. We need to duck our audio. But still something to look forward to the future, which why I'm not really just kind of blowing past it talking about the Q35s right now. The one thing that I did turn off if the Q35s do add wearing detection, yeah, I turned that off because I will routinely just pop the headphones off my ears and just like put them above my head. And you may have just heard me do that with the razors because the sound or distance of my voice changed away from the microphone. And I'll routinely do that if somebody's walking in or if I'm working in some place where I still want to have the music, say, playing, and somebody doesn't. And there's a lot of people who don't understand that headphones can now have audio transparency, and that just because you have the headphones on doesn't mean you can't hear them. So you take the headphones off so that they can see that you can actually hear them. And then you spend, a couple of hours trying to explain advanced audio theory to them, and it's just you see it wafting over their head. So kind of keeping that in mind. The wearing detection, I just turned it off, and I'm sure it might be beneficial to some people. Not really beneficial to me. I mean, it's not a killer feature. Trying to think of anything else to really say about this because I've been over the sound quality. It's not as good as headphones that I have as hand on wired. but it also cost less than some of the other headphones that I have on hand. Again, the headphones that were in the same price range, it sounds okay on wired. It definitely sounds better than the Arctis ones, which again I wasn't even trying to include in a comparison of any kind. Uh, Anything else that comes to mind? Not really. Uh, hmm, Anything else on the headphones? I am a little concerned about the build quality, the plastic that's in use, because the build itself does not seem to have changed too much from the Q30s, which I broke. So chances are I will probably break these. Um, I don't know how practical it would be to do a metallic edition, with replacing the plastic components with a metal frame all the way around. Because if very few people are going to buy a pair of headphones just because they have a metal frame, because they'll take a little bit more abuse. I don't know how long these will actually last. And I generally am rough on headphones to begin with. Have you listened to any of my streams? So that's really all I got to say on these. Would I am I, okay? Do I regret spending the money on the Life Q35s rather than waiting for another pair of headset or getting something else? Well, to be honest, there was nothing else in this price range or in the feature range that I was really interested in. In fact, the only other wireless headset that I or Bluetooth headset that I think you could say I'm even remotely interested in is hideously more expensive. And no, I'm not talking about anything from the Moto. Although I don't think I've ever actually. Uh, so let's go bring it up and we'll do it in this page. All right. The Drop Razer Panda wireless headphone. If you're going, wait a second, that says THX. Okay, THX is, I think, owned by Razer, so these are really a Drop Razer collaboration. These are, I think, officially ended, or product described as product ended. I don't know if there's going to be another run on them, but these were hideously expensive, something like $400. And that just, okay, nope, running the other way. But those were the only other wireless headphones that I was even remotely interested in. And if we just go into interact mode and we'll just drift through the audiophile products, and there's drop product upgrades. Okay, let's do shop. Let's do ready to ship audiophile. Focal elects. Wow, those are also hideously expensive, but they're not wireless. Sennheiser HD Jubilees. These are in the same price range, but um, I think some people have described them as bright sounding. I think that may be a little bit of an understatement. Less Sennheisers that I had were very good in the trebles and very good in the upper mid range, and the bass response was terrible. Life Q35s in that 130 sub 130 range, I think they'd have no problems dusting the Massdrop X Sennheiser HD 58X. Um, let's see. We have Drop Studio. Let's go Drop Studio audio file. And these are Live Q35s are a closed back, not open back headset. So there's really not a whole lot in here to compare it to other than, say, the gaming headsets, the PC37X and the PC38X. And I think, as I've said in previous stream, uh, my PC37Xs went to somebody else because I just didn't like them. They really didn't fit me. And then you have an update on the because Sennheiser has gotten out of the headphone market. These are marked as Mass Drop X Sennheiser PC37Xs and Drop Sennheiser PC38Xs to reflect changes in branding. Well, now you have the Drop plus EPOS, a PC38X gaming headset, which is the same thing as the PC38X from earlier, just now with EPOS as the branding rather than Sennheiser, because, well, Sennheiser's getting out of that market, or got out of that market. Um, and going down, okay, we do see the Soundcore Anchor Liberty 2 Pro True Wireless. You can get them for not much money. And again, the ones that I actually want, the Drop Plus Grells. So there's not really a whole lot else in here that I had my eyes on. Interestingly, the final audios are still available through Drop. Uh, but I think compared to the Grells are going to be a better purchase unless the price comes way down on the final audios. All right, and now we're getting down into the other headphones. And again, there's nothing really here in the Bluetooth range that really says, hey, you should get me. And yeah. So that's just a quick rundown of there wasn't really anything else in the market I was looking at or even interested in. So there is that to consider on the Soundcore Live Q35s, and that I was actually interested in. Now, admittedly, I was interested in them because I've loved the previous Soundcore products so much, and I've only had ever one bad product from Anchor, and that was a little desktop speaker. So they've got a good track record, and I think at the price at $100 price point, which I think is what I ultimately paid. They really did deliver on the Q35s. Now, if you're paying the 129 MSRP, uh, I'm not really sure how to feel about that. If that's what you're paying, I'm not sure they're quite worth that much. But because of the ongoing shortage due to the Biden's administration corruption, pretty obvious at this point, we're probably not going to see a good successor to a mini headphone product for a while, or at least affordable or easy to obtain. So the Anchor Life Q35s, if you can get a hold of them, which you can, probably are a very good value for money. And that's, I think, all I really got to say on them. If you've listened this long, thank you. I'm Aurian.